Hi, I'm glad you're here. This is Sharon from Meeedly, the world's best business-to-business meeting scheduling tool. I will be your host, guiding you through a series of advanced programming concepts simplified for easy learning and practical use. Let's jump right into it. This video is a part of a series where we explore React.js from the ground up. If you're a software engineer joining Meeedly, this video series will introduce you to the core development practices we follow. You'll learn how to structure and organize your React.js project from the ground up, apply consistent naming conventions, and use real-life React functions by building a counter app, covering everything from React fundamentals to advanced API integrations. In the previous video, we have set up the routing structure with all the pages of our React app, as well as a navigation and footer component. In this video, we will be working on the home page, where we will be creating our counter and scripts to help complement it. Let's get into it. First, we will be going to home.js. We currently just have a function called home that displays what is on the home page. However, we will now be completely revamping this part. This will be the new code that we will be using for our home page. So let's first go through it. If you look at the top, we will be importing useState, useEffect, and useRef from React. useState lets us add states to our components. useEffect lets us run code when the component mounts or updates. And finally, useRef lets us store a value that doesn't trigger re-renders. Then we have our navigation and footer that we imported from last time, as well as a CSS file that will help us style this specific page. For now, we will be only using useState. useEffect and useRef will be used in the later part of this video. Inside the home component, we will use useState to create a counter initialized to 0. This will be the starting point for our counter. Now, as you go down, you'll see handle increase and handle decrease. These two functions will be used to handle the increasing and decreasing of the counter. If we look specifically at handle decrease, we use the previous value and we use the double question marks, which is also known as a nullish coalescing operator, to safely handle the case when the count is still null for some reason. There is also the prevention of the counter going below 0, which is right here. Then before we render anything, we're going to check if the count is still null. If it is somehow null, we will show a loading message which allows for a clean experience while waiting for the saved data to load. Finally, the last part that we will be returning is the part that will render our home page. We keep the layout with the navigation on top and the footer on the bottom. Then we have our interactive counter in the middle of both of them. Then let's go to the CSS file to see the styling that I have created for this page. If you remember, most of our styling will be in the styling folder, and then it will be based on whichever page we're trying to work on. In our specific case, we will be going to home and then home.css. Here's the following CSS that I have created. Feel free to put your own changes to such. This is how your home page should look like after all the things that we did. You will see that we have two buttons that will increase and decrease your counter dependent on how many times you click it. By clicking increase, it goes up. By clicking decrease, it goes down. And once you hit 0 and try to decrease it, it will just continually stay 0. Finally, take note that when we refresh this page, your counter will completely reset, like so. Let's change this so that you will be able to keep your data even after it refreshes. To add this new functionality, we will be adding a small utility module that will help our React app save and load a counter value using local storage. We will be doing this in our common home utils.js file that we created in our scripts folder. If you remember from the first video, the purpose of this is to have a place where scripts or custom logic that doesn't fit into components, views, or utilities will go. And this is what we'll be putting inside this file. This utility object will have two functions called saveCounter and getSaveCounter. SaveCounter saves a number to the browser, while getSaveCounter retrieves it for later. It uses local storage, which is a built-in browser feature that lets you store data that stays even after you refresh the page. The saveCounter function saves the count into local storage using a key called homeCounter. Local storage.setItem usually requires a key and a value. The key in this case, like we mentioned, is homeCounter, and the value that is the actual data to store will be count. Finally, we have a console.log, which is for debugging for developers to see when the counter was saved. The getSaveCounter is a function we will be using to retrieve the store counter from local storage. If it exists, it will parse the string back to a number using parseInt. If there's nothing, then it will return 0 by default. This means that if it's the user's first time, the counter will start at 0. However, if they have been here before, it loads the saved number. After you have finished your file and saved it, we will now be going back to our home.js to import this utility module. We will do it the same way that we have imported our navigation and footer. Import common home utils from scripts, home, common home utils. We will also be adding a couple lines of code into our home component. So here are the things that are going to be changed. Previously, we had a use state that was at 0, but now we will set it at null to help detect unset. We will also be adding hasLoaded with a useRef, which is specifically used to track whether we finish loading the initial value, allowing us to prevent saving the data too early. We also have added two use effects. The first use effect only runs when the component mounts. It will load the saveCounter value from our common home utils helper. Once the value is loaded, we set the state and mark hasLoaded as true. You can think of this like loading save preferences when your app starts. The second effect watches for changes to the count variable. We have a guard condition where it will only save if hasLoaded is true and count isn't null. By doing this, we avoid accidentally overriding our save value with null before the initial value has been loaded. Make sure you save all your changes and then we can see this in action. If you go back and look at your app, it actually looks the same with the functionalities that we saw before. When you click the blue increase, your number goes up. If you click the red decrease, it goes down. However, now when you try and refresh the page, your number actually stays there. We can also see this debugging in action if we go into the console and see it saving the count. So how we can do this is by going and inspecting the page. Then we will go to console, and we can see that right now it's saved to local storage of 2. When we increase it, it is also saving these numbers. The same with decreasing. This is how we know that common home utils has been successfully imported into our home page. And that's it. To summarize what we have gone through in this video, we have set up the home page styling and created a counter. We have also created a utility module that allows for our counter to save the number to the browser and then retrieve it later, even after refreshing the page. In our following video, we will be moving on to our About page to create a mock user post feed. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.